welcome to Talk the Talk with Mr. Eddie Garza. So we are so excited to have him with us today. All right, hey, my name is Jennifer Olmeda. It's lovely to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Lovely to meet you. Thank you from Olmeda Productions, and we want to thank the lovely La Quinta Hotel here in McAllen for hosting us. So, all right, you, my friend, are the founder, promoter, originator of Combat Cult Wrestling here in the Valley, correct?
Yes.
Awesome. That is so exciting. Okay, you got to tell us. So, how did your journey into wrestling start? Like from the very beginning, what got you into wrestling?
So I was working in West Texas for a little while, and one day I was, it was a little bit of like downtime. I had my phone watching wrestling. I've been a wrestling fan since I can remember. I want to say like 5 years old, and I wasn't really happy with what I was doing. I was kind of just in it for the money, and being away from home, my loved ones. I was just like, I always felt like I was kind of just wasting away my potential. So, I was watching the wrestling, and I was like, hey, maybe I would like to take my hand, try my hand in this. Well, why not? People do it all the time. And oddly enough, I was watching a video about a gentleman from Parks and Rec. What's his name? The one who played Star-Lord.
Chris Pratt.
Pratt.
Yes.
I was watching a video of him a little later on that day, and he was talking about how he kind of started his journey a little later. And, I was like, well, that kind of sounds a little like me. I'm starting a journey later, so you know what? Let me just jump into it. So I got home from that hitch, and I looked into local wrestling promotions and local wrestling schools, and I found one in Corpus, and I was kind of trying to head in that direction, but it didn't work out. And I remember there was a wrestling promotion here in McAllen called Wrestling Revolution at the time, and so I messaged the Facebook page, and they got back to me, and they told us they're there every Friday to come in, talk with so and so, and they would get me started. So I started doing a little bit of wrestling training at WR. I did security for them during their shows. They had them every Friday at Cine el Rey. That's where I met Pete Payne, who's I would like to consider him my mentor right now. And from there I kind of, like I said, I did a little bit of training there, but I wasn't very consistent. Mostly because of life. Life throws you different things and work, and the training there at the time was kind of hard to get to anyway. So I took a little bit of a pause, and at the time Pete Payne was running some shows, and I kind of wanted to help him out creatively, because I've always been kind of like I've always found creating stories something interesting to me.
And what were they called again?
Evil Masters. They're they're a promotion based in Brownsville, and they host shows about every quarter. Once a quarter, they host shows, and so I helped them out with that, and they've helped me out a bunch too, and that's kind of how I got thrown into this crazy business.
Wow.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
But that's amazing. I mean, that takes guts. Like, that really takes some guts to be able to be like, you know what? I'm at my job. I'm scrolling. I'm having a lousy day to say my thing. I'm just, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Like, how many people think, I would love to do this. I would love to do that. And then don't take the jump.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of guts, a lot of self-confidence, a lot of really just belief and strength of character to be so strong-minded and say, you know what, I'm going to do this. That's amazing.
It really was kind of a leap of faith, and I wouldn't really be here if it wasn't for the support of my family, like my mom, my dad, my wife. She's been instrumental in helping me out with this. She's a psychology major, and she's whenever I'm kind of feeling that self-doubt, she's there to kind of help me out and pick me up a little bit. My parents always raised me to be kind of that, I guess my dad was a big risk taker. And my mom has always been like probably my biggest support. So, having them, all three of them and kind of as my support system, they've really helped me out, and they've instilled in me I guess you can say the confidence to kind of just take that leap. So,
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's so cool. That's so awesome. Like, wow. So anybody that wants to follow your dreams, man. Look
just
at
do
that.
it. Yeah, just do it. I
Right?
mean, what do you have to lose? It's you either fall on your face or you live with that regret the rest of your life. You know?
Ouch.
Yeah.
Fall on your face.
Yeah. But I feel like living with that regret probably hurts a lot more than
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. So, okay, so your journey. So we started from scrolling with Chris Pratt to here we go. Let's just get in there, right?
I'll go drop it.
And
a little
so-
bit of background. I actually practice jujitsu. I've
Oh,
practiced
cool.
jujitsu for about
Awesome.
I want to say like 14 years, and so I have a little bit of a grappling experience. So yeah, I'll get in the ring with Pete and some of the guys sometimes, and I'll wrestle. But I myself am not a wrestler.
Okay.
I don't take the risks that they do, on a daily basis.
I beg to differ.
Well, yeah, there's different type of risks. But yeah, I'll do a little bit of wrestling training here and there.
Wow. Okay, so you got the in wrestling ring experience.
Tad, I haven't had a match or anything like that, but I'll practice with the guys.
Very cool. And then you purchase your ring. Okay, so like where does someone go about purchasing a ring? Like, oh, let's buy a wrestling ring.
Yeah,
How does that work?
That was kind of like the weirdest thing for me. So I just, I Googled wrestling rings, where to purchase it, and I found a website called Monster Ring and Cages. They send it to you in pieces.
Oh, okay.
So a big part of what I do is actually setting up the ring.
Okay.
Learning how because if you don't set the ring up right, it's not gonna work properly. There's a lot of dangers that go into.
Absolutely.
the ring,
I'm sure
so.
people can get hurt.
Oh yeah,
and-
the ropes can snap and whatnot. So setting up the ring has its own little technique, and I have a ton of help on that too. A lot of the wrestlers and the refs and people involved in the show will actually help us out. We did our first show October of 2022. It was a joint show between myself, Evil Masters, and Pete Payne's Puro Lucha Pro. So we all each had a hand in that one show, October 2022. And from there, I was just like, hey, well, you know what? Let me keep this going. Let me get the ball rolling. So I partnered up with Suerte Bar and Grill in Westico, and we did shows there about every month. I didn't really know the business very well, but I knew it was a business, and I had to run it like a business, because if you don't run it like a business, I think people get caught up in this business sometimes, wrestling, because it was something that they loved as a child, and they kind of want to just say they did it. There's a term sometimes that people say, they were playing wrestler. Not saying anybody around here is doing that, but I think people can get caught up in the excitement of being just part of the wrestling business, because for so many years it was very secretive. People didn't know a lot of stuff that went on backstage, and with the invention of the internet, or the prominence of the internet, coming up, I think a lot of people started realizing how things work backstage, and they start using terms that only wrestlers were using at the time. So, with everything that's given to us, I kind of just started learning how to kind of run a show. There's a lot of things that go into it. You got to think about production. You got to think about storyline. You got to think about marketing the whole show. You got to think about the finances. So there's a lot that goes into just putting on a show. But luckily I've been able to execute that I'd like to say pretty well.
That's awesome. You are currently a student at our very own UTRGV.
Yep.
With the accounting department, correct?
Yes,
so I'm sure that's going to be phenomenal.
Oh yeah, it helps. It definitely helps a lot. I've only taken 2 accounting classes, but those classes themselves have helped me a lot with my second year, in this business. I've learned how to maintain my finances and keep track of everything. Because at first, everything was just all over the place. I was just throwing money here, throwing money there. I didn't really know where everything was going. Now I kind of have like a system where I can kind of track where everything's going. If I feel like, oh man, there's too much money going over here, I find different ways to cut down. If I feel like I need to put more money into something else, I can kind of figure out how to do that too. So, but yeah, being an accounting, a current accounting student has helped me out a lot in navigating the business side of things. And UTRGV, they're actually very they're very involved in local businesses, small businesses especially. So I've actually had a lot of support from current students doing projects, say for marketing. A good friend of mine was doing a marketing project, so he's like, hey, let me help you out. So we did that. UTRGV actually had an entrepreneurial week a few weeks ago. I took part of that. It was kind of just like, hey, this is our business, this is what we do, and they kind of gave us rankings, and we actually got third place in that. So that was actually pretty fun.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow. So how did it come about to where you said, okay, combat cult, I'm going to create it? Like, how did that happen?
You mean like the entire promotion, or just like the name, or?
Both, actually, really, because I mean, it sounds like you entered into what seems like a family, a wrestling family.
It is a
seems
brotherhood.
Like there's a lot of camaraderie. There's a lot of, okay, let me help you here, and I can help you here, and I've got this here.
It definitely is a brotherhood, and having Pete Payne in my corner, he's been one that has a lot of connections. He did a lot of touring around Texas and Mexico, and he made a lot of connections himself. And if you know Pete Payne can be a pain sometimes. No pun intended, but Pete has a very good heart, and he's made the right connections. And luckily, I've had him. Like I said, I've had him in my corner, and he's helped me out, in various aspects of the game. And but coming up with the promotion, at the time when I was working with WR, I was doing the security. WR had a really good product, but I felt there were some areas where they could improve. But at the time, I didn't have that say. I was just a trainee. I couldn't go up to somebody and say, hey, I think creatively we can go this route. There was one specific instance where Pete Payne and his partner Nightmare, the Nightmares of Pain, they had this really long run as tag team champions, and it ended on a very kind of weird note, where I felt like there was another direction they could have gone with another team, and they could have had this really cool story, but for some reason it wasn't part of the cards of WR. So I remember sitting there when watching them, in their match, and I was thinking, this is like a wasted opportunity. This is something that I think the fans would really like. But again, I didn't have any say in that. I was just a trainee, and from that point on, I kind of formulated these ideas where I was like, hey, if I ever get into this, maybe I can execute this idea, and execute this storyline, and get these wrestlers to face each other. And that's kind of how the promotion came about. I had the plan. I bought the ring. I wasn't really ready to execute it, but like I said, I started swimming with the sharks, and from there I just kept the ball rolling. And we've done some pretty cool things. We did tacos and tequila out here at the McAllen Convention Center. We had a really good show with now Fortuna Texas Wrestling, Cine which was last February. That was probably one of our biggest shows. Those two shows were definitely our biggest shows. Cine holds a really special place in my heart because we packed out Cine el Rey. Yeah, we actually had to turn down some people, and it was a really good show. We were off the heels of AEW here in town in Edinburgh. We had some AEW wrestlers mix it up with our locals, and it was just a really cool experience, I think, for everybody. And I really hope that one day we can recapture that, because I feel like that was. I think that if we can go in that direction, the Valley wrestling scene has so much more room to grow, and keeping that type of atmosphere that we had at Cinemania, I mean, there's just so much potential that we can exploit.
Absolutely. So how did Combat Cult, the name, come about?
So I knew when I started that I kind of wanted something a little bit more for the adults, I guess you can say. I think one of the biggest complaints we have in the Valley is that there's nothing to do. It's boring, right? No, like there's plenty to do. And I think as, for our demographic, the age, 25 to 35, I think, going out to the bars and getting hammered every weekend, it can kind of get old. Once you hit a certain age, you don't recover as quickly. So, I figured, hey, let's give, I think there's other promotions down here that serve their purpose, especially for families. So why wouldn't I create something else for let's say an older audience, a little bit more mature audience. Of course, what we do is still a little family friendly. We don't go around doing crazy stuff like WWE did in the Attitude Era, the late '90s, early 2000s. But we do definitely keep it a little bit more edgy. And when I was looking for a name, I was kind of like, well, I don't want anything that's just too local, just like Valley Wrestling, or I don't want anything that's too brand like, World Wrestling or something, because, right now we're in the Valley. So, coming up with names, oddly enough, I was talking to a couple of friends of mine. It was COVID at the time, so of course everybody was on Netflix watching various
everything
Tiger you could.
King.
Yeah, Tiger King. There was just so much stuff that we could watch because there was nothing else to do, right? So I know a big thing at the time was Cobra Kai. And I was talking. Yeah, I love Cobra Kai. So I was talking to a couple buddies of mine, and a friend of mine said something along the lines of it being Cobra Kai being a karate cult. So I was like, hey, cult, that sounds pretty neat, karate cult. So what can I kind of, alliteration. So I said, hey, well, what about combat cult? And this friend of mine, the one we were, I'm talking about, he actually designed the logo. So I guess you could say he had a really big hand in the branding of combat cult. He made the entire logo from scratch. This was actually a painting he made, I want to say like in 2011 or 12.
Oh wow.
And I remember seeing it, I said, hey, that looks really cool. I'd like to get that tattooed one day.
Do you have a tattoo?
No, I don't.
Oh.
I don't, not yet.
I see tattoos.
No, I have plenty of tattoos, some that he even drew, but no, I didn't. I didn't get it tattooed, but I remember thinking like that would be a cool tattoo one day. So when I came up with Combat Cult, or we came up with Combat Cult, I was like, hey, what would be a really good idea if you use that painting, kind of like change it up a little bit, but we use that painting for the logo. And if you'd be okay with that, I would love to implement that. He was like, yeah, let's do it. So he went ahead, and it was just the coffin at the time, but he ended up adding the Reaper in the back, and the font. We kind of played with some ideas. I wanted something kind of resembling like the Rocky Horror Show.
Yeah.
So he kind of came up with that, and it was so crazy because when I gave him my ideas, he sent them to me a couple of days later, and it was exactly how I pictured it. So I was like, yo, this is the route we're gonna go. This is gonna be the logo. And I think probably one of the biggest compliments we get about our promotion is the logo itself. Like everybody says, like, oh, it's just so cool. So shout out Rob Avila, Ohio. You're my boy. I love you. If you're watching. Like, promotions out here, they're doing great things. I think, like I said, they serve their purpose. They're very family oriented. There's one that does shows every week, over in Alamo. So they're definitely breeding because they're new breed wrestling. So they're definitely cultivating the local talent down here. There's other promotions like Texas, or they're now the wrestling league. They do some pretty cool things out here too. So a bunch of promotions out here that are doing really awesome things. But I really wanted to set myself apart from what they're doing, and that's kind of how I found I guess you could say, found my niche.
That's wonderful, and I think it's amazing to recognize the other promotions and what they're doing, and to set yourself apart.
I want the Valley to be the opportunity. I don't want people to say like, oh, I have to travel to X, Y, and Z to get an opportunity. No, I want us to be the opportunity. And and crazy enough, I get a lot of talent from outside reaching out to me too because they want opportunity. So it's definitely like it's definitely this crazy kind of cycle where I'm creating something for our guys, but I'm also creating something for other people outside. So, but yeah, that's kind of always been the goal, is to create a platform for. And I guess now it started as Valley Wrestlers, which is wrestlers in general. I think the more opportunities they get, the better. Sometimes it just takes the right eyes to see some talent and say, hey, I want that wrestler to be at my show. And hopefully one day, that's somebody like WWE or AEW or TNA that says, hey, that wrestler that I saw on this show, you know, I saw a clip of this guy. This looks cool. Let me look into this. Hey, I want to sign that guy. That's a goal of mine.
You all are doing a really wonderful job of promoting and establishing opportunity for people. The Valley has such a large population. We were talking off camera earlier about this. There's just a huge population here that kind of is untapped potential.
Yes.
That is a beautiful diamond in the rough that people don't really recognize as, wait a minute, there's this place here. I mean, why
Yes.
go look elsewhere? And it's phenomenal that you're mentioning that there are people from outside saying, let me come in here.
Yes.
And they're seeing what we have here and wanting to take advantage of that. And unfortunately, there aren't enough people like yourself that are seeing it for what it is.
Right.
Just this beautiful font of opportunity for people. Okay, so before we end, 3 really rapid fire questions, okay? Just off the cuff, fast as possible.
All right.
All right, pancakes or waffles?
Ooh, pancakes.
Man, come on. All right, movies or books?
Ooh, books.
Nice, because you're a writer. I see it. All right, big one. WWF, WCW.
Monday Night Raw.
Ah! Okay, I see it.